Now please welcome Vice President of Global Business Marketing Facebook, Sarah Personette, and President and Editor-in-Chief, Digiday, Brian Morrissey.
Excellent. It's great to be here. I think this event is a great testament to what Rafat and his entire team has done in building a very significant brand for this industry. Today we're going to talk about, it's good following up on Google, we're going to talk about platforms and what it means for the travel experience. Sarah, before we get started, explain very briefly what your role is at Facebook.
So I'm the Vice President of Global Business Marketing, which means that I oversee the marketing for all of our monetized solutions. So anything that you would see for large agencies, large advertisers, all the way to small businesses, how they think about our products, how they think about our platforms, and ultimately how they advertise.
Okay, so you travel a lot too.
I do.
Give me 2 or 3 travel hacks that you have personally.
I love that question. First one, I only take 6 a.m. flights so that I can be the first person out and I can minimize the amount of time between leaving my home and getting onto the flight. And then the second thing is that I take only red-eye flights, usually home, so that I can land, get home, and take my son to school. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old boy.
That is very good. So let's talk a little bit about Facebook making the leap to mobile. I know a lot of companies here, they accept that mobile is the future. They know they're on their phones all the time. You go on the subway, people are just buried in their phones. I think Facebook was unique in that it sort of had that Cortez burn the boats moment earlier than most companies, and so you're farther along in that. Explain what that transition has been like, and how do you think companies that haven't yet fully made the mobile leap should be thinking about that process?
So just to set some context, because it's a really important question, and actually the panel before was talking about the mobile shift. So the world has gone mobile, and it has been the fastest technological shift that we have ever experienced in our lifetime. Literally, shifts are usually talked about in terms of tectonic plates rubbing together, and this has been more like an asteroid coming at the Earth and exploding the way that we communicate, the way that we buy, the way that we share, and the way that we ultimately purchase goods. So with that, the thing that was really interesting is that in 2012, Facebook was not a mobile company. We actually were very predominantly a desktop company, but what we saw happening with people is that they were continuing to rise in terms of accessing Facebook through mobile. And so originally we placed the wrong bet. We placed the bet on HTML5, and we realized that that was not the right thing and had to pivot our entire company, and this really speaks to the leadership of Mark Zuckerberg. He said, we need to build native, and we need to build native for iOS and for Android. And with that, every single product manager that came in and presented to him did it through a mobile device. And they talked to him about a mobile-first experience. So the key takeaway there is, how do you make sure that from the top it is a mandate around how you think about becoming a mobile-first business? Because this is ultimately where people are, and this is the experience that they are expecting. Highly personal, highly relevant, highly frictionless, connected across devices so that you can deliver value for that person. And that's the pivot that we had to make.
What were the biggest internal challenges to making that? Because I think a lot of times, there can be this vision at the top, but I mean, Facebook's a big organization now, and you got to get everyone to buy in. What kind of internal challenges did you face?
First one is actually the mandate from the top. I cannot say enough how critically important that is. The second one was setting expectations clearly. So making sure that as we thought about product design, as we thought about product experiences, that they actually did start mobile first. Because if people and consumers ultimately are going through this mobile mind shift, we need to make sure that we are building platforms and we are building ideas that start as mobile-centric. So making sure that the way that people were designing plans also shifted was really important. And then I think there's a talent component to this. So during that time frame, there was a lot of training around how we make sure we set teams up for success to think differently about a mobile-first world. And I'm sure many people in the room are going through that same transition or transformation right now as you lead digital transformation inside of your companies, as you think about what mobile-first business means for the travel category and the subsector that you might be in. That was the same transition that we had to make. We just made it sooner, I think, than most businesses. But if you do not disrupt yourselves, somebody else will disrupt you. And so that's where our plea oftentimes with clients is really to think about what are the legacy infrastructure pieces that you need to change today.
So Facebook, Instagram, Oculus, WhatsApp, we'll leave WhatsApp to the side for the moment. Gigantic platforms, gigantic reach. I think when we're thinking about travel, we think about before the travel, figuring out where you're going to go, inspiration, during the trip, how you share it, and then after the trip. Can you explain the sort of big trends that you're seeing across those different platforms when it comes to those different stages?
Yeah, absolutely. So the interesting part of having shifted to mobile is that when you are on mobile, you are actually in a discovery mindset. And in particular, when you're in a feed-based environment, you are in a discovery mindset.
So that's different from desktop that you're finding?
Totally different from desktop. Feed-based environment on mobile, you do not know, every single day, 1 billion people wake up, they open a Facebook, or 500 million people wake up and they open Instagram, and it is an entirely personalized, curated experience to them. So this idea of surprise and delight is really important. And it's extremely important in travel because now that consideration phase, which might have been a little bit shorter because it was more one-on-one engagements when you saw family or you saw friends in personal environments, now is happening in a really broad-based scale because you're connected to friends, you're connected to businesses, you're connected to all the different brands and stories that you guys are telling on the platform in a real and different way. What that requires is making sure that you have extremely relevant content that's delivered for that person, that we are thinking about who the individual is and bringing people-based marketing to the forefront so that you can inspire individuals and you can help them in their research journey. And then ultimately, when they're ready to make the purchase, allow for frictionless purchasing of that experience as well, whether it's buying an airplane ticket or buying a hotel.
How is this different from a search era?
Yeah.
I mean, search is still gigantic, but this, Facebook has been at the forefront of building these social platforms to connect people. But how should companies think differently when it comes to, being in that feed versus being a result on a search results page?
It's a great question because the shift to discovery and a discovery mindset means that many of the practices of old on search don't actually apply to a mobile feed environment. So we're thinking—
What's like an example of that?
An example of that is buying keywords versus thinking about the signals that you can understand about a person inside of Facebook or inside of Instagram. And I'll give you this example. We recently launched dynamic product ads for travel. And what you can do with that is understand and build out custom audiences so that you know what they are looking at and what they are trying to understand and discover on your particular site, and retarget them with destination type visuals from your product catalog that speak to them wanting to go to Paris, that speak to real-time rates inside of that carousel unit, that speak to the experiences that they might locally want to have on the ground. Now, inside of a Facebook environment or inside of an Instagram environment, what you are fighting with is the feed, right? You are fighting with every single person and friend that's communicating with that person. So you want to make sure that you are developing thumb-stopping creative, that in that moment, as you are flipping through the feed, you say, this is actually extremely relevant to me. And I've used the pixel and I've used the opportunity to understand that custom audience in order to deliver the right piece of content at the right time with the right deal to the right person. Highly personal, highly relevant in this environment where signals are just different.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things, the sort of macro trends that we're seeing that's different from the search era, I mean, search was always about sending people away from the search results page. And that was the goal of Google. Now we're seeing more platforms wanting to keep people within the environment. I think this goes with mobile because people, it's very fast. Thumbs move very fast these days. But that leads to challenges. Do you think that most travel transactions are going to take place within platforms eventually, whether that's Facebook Messenger, whether that's Instagram, or whether that's just Facebook or eventually Oculus?
I think what's really important is that you give the consumer what they want. And so if a consumer wants to book inside of a mobile application, then absolutely make sure that that experience is frictionless. If people are spending
When you say a mobile application, do you mean your mobile application or
a
Marriott's?
brand, Marriott's.
Okay.
However, the thing that is really important to consider is where people are spending most of their time. And right now on Facebook and Instagram, and when you add Audience Network to that, over a quarter of the amount of time spent on mobile is spent on those two platforms and then across the Audience Network. So if you are going for being where the consumer is, people are spending their time in Facebook and they're spending their time in Instagram. To make it as frictionless and seamless as possible, to give them and get them what they want, making sure that you're considering how to make that buy now action happen inside of those applications is really important. It's also really important for us. We continue to invest in the Pages platform and continue to invest in ad units that allow you to deliver that frictionless experience, that allow you to do book now, that allow you to do buy now, that allow you to do reserve now, so that you don't have to take them off platform and we can ultimately drive real business results for you.
So won't Facebook then just be another gigantic intermediary between brands and their customers?
It's not the intention. The intention is to make sure that you as businesses can do what you need to do to grow your business, that you can connect with the consumers at the right stage of the funnel and be able to drive them to conversion. So the intention is not to be an intermediary. The intention is to make sure that the connection between people and businesses is as frictionless as possible and adds as much value as possible.
So will travel brands' owned websites and apps become less important then?
I think it remains to be seen. It depends on the intention of that channel, right? So I think the first thing I would say is, have you optimized that experience for mobile? When you are thinking about building a website, if you're building that website as desktop only or desktop first, but you look at the trends in terms of people moving and shifting from desktop into the mobile space, quick numbers on that. This past year in the US alone, people spent 4 hours on TV, they spent 5 and 3/4 hours on digital, and 3 hours of that was on mobile. Right? Where if you look at the travel category in particular on weekends, we see most bookings and most reservations happen through mobile. So you really need to be thinking about two things. How are you building mobile first? If you're building a web presence, make sure that web presence is mobile first. And how are you thinking about communicating and connecting with them in the environments that they are on for mobile? And what's wonderful is that Facebook and Instagram provide that. We provide that through being your mobile presence from a page perspective, and we provide that through different advertising solutions. So I think that's a really critical aspect to thinking about how you become a mobile-first company.
Yeah. So Facebook unbundled its app to some degree.
Yep.
Messenger is now a separate app. And I wonder whether you're seeing in the travel category sometimes people trying to do too much with their apps, that is trying to do too many things.
Too many things? I would say I have less of an opinion on other people's applications, and I can speak to our experience. So an example of this where we want to create the most fast and frictionless experience possible was with Messenger. Messenger actually used to be embedded inside of the Big Blue app, and what we saw was a trend towards people expecting a faster experience. And one that was more savvy and intuitive to the experience that they wanted. It required too many clicks to get to the actual action that they wanted. And as a result, we pulled Messenger out of the Big Blue app and it became a standalone app. And obviously that has been very successful for the company and also very successful in terms of people being able to connect with the people that they want in real time and in fast interaction.
All about speed, all about less friction.
Yeah.
What are missed opportunities that you're seeing when particularly travel marketers are using Facebook's platforms?
First thing I would say is really consider measurement. So from a cross-device perspective, the reality is that the shift to mobile has completely disrupted the path to purchase. And That is hard, and I have a lot of empathy for this transition that everyone is going through. But making sure that you have set up measurement across device, that you're leveraging the pixel in the right way in order to be able to follow the journey of that consumer and deliver them the right content at the right time is the first thing and the most important thing. The second thing I would say is probably the following the shiny object syndrome, or trying to take advantage of the shiny object. You know, there are lots of questions around VR, lots of questions around Oculus and how you build and design for Oculus today. And sorry to jump the gun on that. And Oculus is amazing, and we are absolutely committed to a 10-year vision around it being the new way that people communicate with each other and that they communicate with businesses. That said, if you don't have the brilliant basics right, if you don't have a site that's that's mobile optimized, if you don't have a page where you have messaging turned on, if you aren't thinking about the full suite of capabilities that right now with dynamic product ads for travel are actually being taken into consideration, if you don't have the right infrastructure inside of your company to take advantage of mobile, if you don't have a top-down mandate to shift quickly to a mobile-first world and meet the demands of people, then don't spend your time on building VR content.
Wow, that's an interesting point. We were joking backstage about how, you know, I think like 5-6 years ago, marketers were always so far behind consumers, and nowadays, sometimes they're ahead in some ways in that these are not immediate opportunities. But when we talk about live video, 360 video, and VR, where are the immediate and near-term opportunities within those three?
360 video and live, and I'll segment them out because
VR is just for like very experimental.
I think it's very experimental. It is, Oculus in particular is an incredible hardware platform. It's also an incredible content platform, but the reach and scale for consumers and for you to connect with consumers is not there yet relative to a platform that has 1.6 billion people on it, or a platform that has 500 million people on it, or another platform that has 1 billion people on it. So if you're thinking about scale and you're thinking about sustainable growth, I would absolutely go where the people are and allow others to experiment so that you can learn from the experience of how you create the most immersive and connected virtual reality experiences. So that's really a part of our 10-year vision, which Mark talked about at F8. 360, though, if you are interested in trying to understand how you tell bigger stories, more immersive stories, and taking advantage of the mobile canvas, 360 is an amazing place to start experimenting with that. So investing, especially with your creative agency partners, in trying to understand how you capture landscape videos. National Geographic is actually phenomenal at this. They use 360 footage to capture different places around the world and tell beautiful and big stories that really bring people into that experience. The second part is live, which is different from, I think, 360 in the way that you're telling a story. Live was really surprising to us. We had introduced live about a year ago, and it was a small way to engage, have celebrities and politicians engage with their audiences. And we saw the adoption and interest in this product grow so quickly that we essentially went into lockdown and introduced a whole new feature set in addition to making sure that it was a fast experience for people around the world. And that's what we recently released about 6 months ago. And we're seeing incredible adoption with this in different ways for people to really authentically connect with each other and share their stories on the ground. And we're also starting to see businesses experiment with this.
So final thing is around bots. There's a lot going on when it comes to bots. Messenger has a bot platform. I got to admit, interacting with some of these bots, it's very awkward. It doesn't feel totally there yet. Is this still in the experimental bucket?
I would say bots are early days, and we will continue to invest in them. And I think there are many clients and businesses and brands around the world that are also experimenting and investing with them. The thing that is true and the important takeaway, I think, around Messenger and messaging is this idea that you can create a seamless experience between your business and the individual. So one canonical thread where people are able to continue to come back to you and answer questions or ask questions, understand what they need in terms of a service perspective, and it's all seamless and it's all integrated into one thread. There are so many different experiences and so many different platforms that consumers are being communicated with on today that creating that one single thread will be really important. And bots are a way to optimize those experiences and make the lifting less heavy for clients around the world.
Cool. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.